Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 2020 Summer Series. I'm Morgan Malloy from 5199, the Robot Dolphins from Outer Space. I'm your moderator for today. Today, we'll be discussing Chairman's Award and the different ways team approaches it. We are welcomed by panelists from 3309, the Friarbots, 1622, Spyder, and 2485, the Warlords. They can introduce themselves now.
I'll go ahead and start. Hi, I'm Adrian Machado from Team 3309. I'm the Vice President of Business on that team. I'm joined by Mr. Badzi, who's our business mentor. He really helps me with writing the essay and staying on schedule. And I'm joined by Cruz, who has been a presenter for 2 years and has worked on the essay and executive questions.
Hello, my name is Madeline Nguyen. I'm the VP of Robot / Chief Project Officer and one of this year's Dean's List winner. I'm from 1622, Team Spyder, and we're joined by our team president, Jenna Cal.
Hello, I'm Luca Bonanno. I am the Business and Outreach Department Head for Team 2485, the Warlords, and Chisato is joining me here today, and she is our Director of Award Submissions.
Cool, thank you so much. So we're going to start with some pre-done questions. How do you guys organize your chairman's sub-team?
All right, I'll go ahead and take that. So our team, in terms of chairman's organization, we mainly designate, well, as I mentioned earlier, we have an awards director, which is Chisato this year, and our awards director is in charge of putting together basically our presenters and assigning people, members of our team, to work on essay supplementals and executive summaries and whatnot. And they basically, anyone who is interested in being a presenter is able to join the department, I guess, temporarily. You don't have, on our team, at least, you don't have to be a member of the business department to be a chairman's presenter. And then otherwise, in terms of organization, it's pretty much that simple, just assigning tasks throughout the year to ensure that you put together best submission possible.
Does anyone else have something to add?
I guess I can take this question for our team. So we recently updated how we do our leadership, and basically how the, I guess, business / chairman's sub-team is organized is it goes president, VP of business, and then underneath the VP of business, you have our chairman's lead, and then many of our administrative roles like secretary and treasurer also fall under business, and together they all work together as for award submissions and the chairman's essay and stuff like that. And we basically run under chain of command. If something goes wrong, you talk to the chairman's lead, then the VP of business, then president, and then mentors from there.
Yeah,
And then
go ahead. No, go ahead, Adrian.
Okay, I'll take it, Mr. Badzi. As far as how 3309 organizes kind of how they complete the award submission for chairmans, we have the vice president of business and the kind of business department. We work on fundraising, award submissions, kind of everything that could fall under business. And then we also have the vice president of marketing, whom with which we kind of work on for graphics, visuals, the chairman's video. We give them the freedom to kind of take our message and transform it however they want to.
And we have a question from the chat. Keep the questions going, guys. How do you pick the chairman's team and the presenter?
Our team actually, like Adrian was saying, we have the business team, the marketing team, or pretty much that's their charter to work on the presentation and the essay. And presenters are usually selected by tryouts. The business team usually has first right of attempt, but if anyone else from the rest of the team wants to try out, they're welcome to do it. And then we have basically a tryout session where they get to do a reading of the previous one to see about the presentation style.
For our team specifically, we choose our presenters through, similar to what Mr. Badsey mentioned there, an audition or tryout process. If there's enough interest, sometimes we don't have as many people interested to go through a full tryout, but we've actually had a lot of success bringing in presenters from outside the business department. So it's not business exclusive. One of our presenters last year was actually from design, and in the past we've had people join from software and all the other departments. So I think presenters are definitely something that you should focus almost like a team-wide search for, as opposed to just sticking within your department, because you can really be missing out on some very effective presenters by not really opening the lens of, or opening your scope of who you're looking for.
For us, we basically open up the opportunity to anyone who's interested on the team, and really try to nominate or try to, I guess, get the younger members involved so they get somewhat some chairman's experience a little bit earlier on the team. So in future years, if they want to pursue chairman's, they're more than willing and they have some experience. But yeah, for the most part, the opportunity is open to anyone, and we make sure we train and, I guess, help whoever is interested practice for the chairman's presentation.
And we have another question in the chat from Rick Jung. Can the teams mention their successful records with receiving chairman awards?
I think we've received it 5 years straight, I think.
6.
I'll check the blue. 6?
That's 6, yeah.
I'll check the blue lines, but we're up there.
Our team won the Chairman's Award in 2017, 18, and 2019. So 3 years in a row, but not this most recent year.
Well, we won it this last year for 2020, 2019. I don't think we won it in 2018, and then 2017, and then I also think 2016.
Okay, so the next question is, how early do you guys begin writing essays for chairman submissions? Does one person or multiple people write the essay? And let's start with Team Spyder.
Sorry, I was trying to. We begin writing our essay basically as soon as we go back to school, and we format it and we try to get rough drafts done before Thanksgiving or when we have our winter breaks, and then we still work on it until a few days before submission, because we're constantly adding information, because we don't stop and we do outreach throughout the entire year, even during the summer. So mainly we focus on collecting that data at first, putting a little bit of a base, and then we polish it towards the end of the submission date.
So for our team, from the summer to the first few months of the school year, we try to focus on recruiting and training new members. So I would say that we start thinking of what chairman's theme that we want to have, and then subsequently the essay writing, probably late October into November, right before Thanksgiving break. Try to have some sort of draft done before kickoff, and then after that, along with the rest of the presentation, just keep on drafting, writing, and then doing all the organizational things until submission.
We have a theme every year that we decide on, and we kind of are inspired by the theme. We don't really just sit down and pick one. So we'll typically work on the chairman's essay starting in October. That's when we'll start gathering kind of the outreach that we can use, start thinking of possible theme ideas, and then once we nail one down, which is typically before Christmas break, we'll get to work writing the essay, coming up with multiple drafts, and then working on it up until the end date, because as Spyder said, we never really stop doing outreach, so there's always constantly things to update it with. As far as whether it's more efficient to have multiple people writing on it, multiple people writing the essay, as to one person writing the essay, I think it depends on choice and style. There are a bunch of different ways that it can be done, that it's been done successfully. There's only just pros and cons. If you have one person write it, it's a lot more work for that one person, but it provides a continuous voice in the writing. However, if you use multiple people, that can provide multiple different perspectives. So Team 3309 typically writes it with one or two students working on it with the help of some mentors. And that's how we go through our chairman's writing process.
And we have another good question from the chat. How do you guys plan on maintaining outreach with everything going on with COVID-19?
I guess we could go first. It's been a big change, not being able to meet in person, but we're really trying to focus on the virtual aspect of things. During these last 7 weeks, we've done actually a virtual STEM career series, and we plan on doing a ton of more virtual events, especially to reach out to the teams that are mentored globally who didn't have the chance to compete.
Our team, the Warlords, are actually making our first, virtual appearance soon. Well, I guess this is our first virtual appearance right now, but our first team-led outreach event online will be with the Spice Gears in Poland, and we're making some videos and appearances at their summer camp that they're running. And we're maybe a little bit behind the curve in terms of online outreach events, as we're swinging back into the summer and fall with training new members and really focusing on kind of setting a foundation for the next season. But we are starting to look at some new outreach opportunities. In fact, this week we are holding our preliminary outreach meeting. So we will be having some great ideas flowing from that, and we're looking forward to adapting to an online setting.
Participating in events like this in a virtual setting, because we have to be socially distanced. We considered a virtual summer camp, the kind of pros and cons of it. My knowledge, we also 3D printed parts for face masks that people at local hospitals could use. So just a myriad of different ideas that we're pursuing, trying to help the community at large and trying to help the FIRST community.
Cool. And then how do you finalize your award submissions? What kind of editing is done on the written proportions of the submission?
So when we're finalizing our award submissions, we usually go, mostly it's students that work through the draft, and we'll have our coaches and mentors periodically look through it. And then when it comes towards the submission date, we usually have a week or 2 weeks that we look at it with the coaches together and really go through, is the message getting across? Are we really saying what we want to say? And throughout this, we have grammatical checking constantly and making sure everything comes across clear and concise.
I think, of course, we want to focus on checking like grammatical errors, syntax, things like that. I also think we really try to focus on trying to have a unified and clear message throughout the whole chairman's presentation. So from the essay to the video to the actual presentation to supplementals, I think maybe like there's a few core people working on each aspect, but then in the end, before we submit, we make sure that we're providing a unified message across the board.
For finalizing our award submission, we don't really do kind of like a big final edit. We have a kind of rigorous process for writing the essay. We go through sometimes up to 6 or 7 drafts. So we've done a lot of our editing and working the kinks out with our message beforehand. And then it's just looking at final phrasing. Is our message coming through? What is our voice? Kind of just the final touches, kind of putting the frosting on the cake, because you want to have your cake built before you're trying to do your final edits. That's a good tip. But yeah, that's what we do for kind of finalizing our award submission. We look over everything because it's all written by, I'd like to say, like a week, 3 or 4 days. It's all written and done. We're just looking at phrasing and kind of the final touches. And that's the kind of editing that we do on the written portions of the submissions, just looking at phrasing, message, voice, and then, of course, kind of grammatical concepts.
How do you prepare for the presentation? Is there any tips or suggestions?
I guess we could go first. So when it comes to the presentation, we really focus on trying to, I guess, explain deeper in detail what we went over in our essay and really highlight certain parts that we want the judges to really understand. And when it comes to our presenters, we only have 3 of them, and we make sure that they practice over and over and over to make sure they have the presentation drilled into their head. And then we also run, like, I guess, mock presentations in front of the other students and leaders as well as the mentors, and we just make sure that they have tons of practice answering different questions and making sure they have a wider variety of questions that they answer so that they're ready for like any curveball that comes at them.
Yeah, for our team is pretty similar to what Madeline mentioned there. We have a pretty extensive question bank that we use that kind of is a conglomerate of all of the questions we've ever been asked, plus some other sample questions. I think there's probably somewhere over like 60 or 70 questions that we practice and make sure that everyone on our presentation team has an answer for all of them, or at least an idea of an answer. So I think that's probably the most crucial part of our presentation practice that we do, is just making sure that those questions are drilled into everybody's head.
One of the things, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Badsey.
I was just going to mention one of the things that we do is we practice handoffs, because the presenters won't necessarily be a technical expert in a particular area, but another presenter might. So we basically deal with how to handle a question and hand it off. They be able to answer it to the best of their knowledge, and then hand it to someone that has a lot more knowledge on the same team.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we practice, because not everyone there is going to have had the exact same experience on the team. Some are going to have personal experiences with certain outreach events that the judge might ask a question on, and it's typically more impactful to kind of tell a judge about a personal experience and how it kind of first has impacted you, because it creates a personal connection. So practicing those handoffs is one of the main things we do, as well as just practicing the script a lot. That way, when you walk in, you're nervous, you're like, how's this gonna go? But then once you start talking, that's it. You just keep going. Everyone knows their lines, and it goes without incident. And then, as everyone else on here said, we have a bank of questions that we've been asked. We'll present to multiple people on the team, the entire team, the business mentors, all to kind of get a fresh set of eyes and ears on the presentation. So they'll ask questions that other people wouldn't, and it gives us a fresh perspective, and it always keeps us getting better.
And we have a question from the chat. How would one get their hands on that question bank, or maybe something similar?
I can take this question. So most of the questions that we usually test ourselves on when practicing presentations are usually taken from all the questions we've ever been asked, as Mr. Bonanno has also mentioned.
And then, in case this is your first time presenting chairmans, you won't have had a list of questions that you've been asked before. So just when you have people listen to your presentation, there are going to be things that come up. Like if you went over something kind of too shallow, but it's say like one of your biggest outreach events and you want to emphasize it, they'll ask a question. Or if there was a part that was a little bit confusing, they'll ask a question. So a lot of the questions that the judges ask sometimes aren't premeditated, but they're things that they kind of have a base question to ask and then hear an interesting part of your presentation and then kind of adapt it to that. So just having your mentors, having students listen to your presentation really is where you can get a lot of your questions.
I guess for us, when we practice in front of our other team members and mentors, we always tell them, pretend you know nothing about our team. so that they basically start off from a blank slate. And we also like to practice in front of people who actually may not know anything about our team. So they're kind of like, I guess, trying to ask questions that we may not have highlighted enough or things like that from our essay and interview.
And what's the hardest question you've been asked?
I can't remember, honestly.
I don't know either.
We run
There's
through
so
a
many.
lot of them, but I don't think there's anything that
Sometimes judges would ask like
Ever stumps you.
specific questions that are like about a very specific detail that's kind of hard to answer sometimes.
That's where the handoffs come in.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't know the
Oh.
answer, you can turn to one of your team members because they may remember the detail about that particular event. Every time we've gone through it, they've come up with some off-the-wall thing we never considered. So it's just random.
Yep.
Yep. Our team, it's kind of become notorious within our team. We were asked, not last year, but the year before, about whether our team pay it for or gives back. And it was a line that was from our essay that no one on the presentation team remembered was in the essay, and they chose wrong answering the question. And so it's really important. I guess the lesson from that is that it's really important for the presenters to know what exactly is in the essay down to the specific phrasing, so you make sure you're not screwing up with that.
How can a young team start another FRC teams?
I guess we could go first. So I don't think it really matters how old or young your team is, as long as you have the drive and you're willing to put in the effort to help another school or another organization start the team. I think that's what's most important, and really kind of helping them create a basis of how to start their team.
I also just wanted to add real quick that when you're starting a team, it's also about helping that team continue to grow and keeping that relationship. It's not just starting a team and then going to start more teams. It's about building it so they can work well and then be in this first community.
Yeah, I think if you can, like if you have some facilities or like maybe machining that you have and are able to offer potentially to other people outside your team, I think that's a nice place to start. And we do a lot of that with like community-based teams around our area. So I think starting with like small things like that, or even if it's just helping them with like just a certain aspect of something, I think starting off with small things can help.
In my experience, starting an FRC team, it always comes back to the students. There's a core group of students where this is like something they want to do. They want to spend hours on hours working together to build something. So you kind of just have to nurture those students. You have to, provide them with facilities, offer them guidance, kind of show them the ropes, because those core students are always going to have that drive, and they're going to kind of start the team themselves. You just have to kind of get them started. I know that sounds redundant, but I think it makes sense.
Something important that I think it was Jenna mentioned is that you don't have to be a team that's been around for 20 years in order to mentor. All you need is 1 year, because you've been through it once and the other teams have never been through it. So then you can guide them and show them all your mistakes and learn together.
What are some easy ways for young FRC teams to immediately help and impact the community?
I think one of the, more substantial things that younger teams can really do is help, kind of target the schools around in their area and help them start their own robotics programs. Something that we did a couple years ago was really focus on the middle school and elementary schools in our area. And in the end, it actually ended up benefiting our team, because the teams that we started and created there, those students went on and ended up joining our FRC team once they got into high school. So it's both kind of a method to help your community, but also help sustain your own team.
I think also outside of robotics, when you go to libraries or other conferences that other schools or organizations might hold in your community, I think going to those and spreading like, hey, this is what robotics is, I think it makes it really cool and really helps the community know more about robotics and how students can grow from there.
Similar to what Madeline mentioned, I think especially with a school like Parker, where we're based out of, it's K through 12 or pre-K through 12, where you have a younger community to kind of reach out to. It's really easy for a young team with not a lot of experience to start some of the first other programs, be it FLL or mostly FLL and even FTC within their own schools if possible. It's a really good way to kind of spread that message if you don't have a lot of either manpower or experience in terms of outreach.
One of the things I want to mention is that there are always STEM expos, and like Jen was mentioning, there are community events that are done at community colleges and schools and things. Those are a great place to get exposure. And a lot of times, many people have never even seen the FRC Team before, and they're appropriately amazed when they see what you guys can do.
And it's through those events that you attend that you could also spark awareness for expanding STEM within a community.
And we have another question from the chat. How long is the essay?
10,000 characters in Times New Roman 12-point font, roughly 5 pages.
Nice one.
I think we were like 6 characters away from the limit this last year, so we always get super close.
Which part of the submission, interview, essays, or videos do you think is the most influential on the selection process?
So for us, it's always been the essay is the most important, and then we use the interview to kind of reinforce and highlight certain parts that we want the judges to remember. And especially with this last year, with a lot of the regionals being canceled, the essay tended being the only thing that teams were judged off of. So it was really the most essential part.
And as a presenter, I feel that the presentation is probably one of the most influential parts of the submission, because your essay could state all of your info that you're going to be presenting, but the presentation helps tie it all in together with your theme and can help get the judges to have a better understanding of the material.
Yeah, the interview and the essays are for sure, in my opinion, the most important. I've only heard of the video being used as like a tiebreaker as far as it influencing kind of the chairman's award and who it goes to. But the essay, for sure, because that's kind of what you get to spend all of your time kind of crafting, and that's the story that you get to hand in. But with your presentation, it gives you that face-to-face option where you're able to make that personal connection and kind of transmit and tell your story face-to-face. And that can also be a powerful medium of talking about who you are and what you've done.
And we have another question from the chat. How would you suggest the business department helps prepare students for college?
I think the business part really helps with connecting with other people, with public speaking, and then spreading a message that you want others to hear. And I also think like reaching out to others, because our business and our outreach team are intermixed together, where we're trying to make sure the community and like outside of our community as well is connected, and knowing like how much of FIRST and robotics can provide for people.
I think, like Jenna said, like the human interaction, public speaking, that is really important. And I think that's a skill you can really develop when you join business. I also think marketing, so maybe that's a website or, branding with all your logos and your team merchandise, things like that. And I think also just learning how to communicate like within your team. So making sure that everyone, like whether everyone is on the same page with everything, like even if like it's not just the business people doing outreach, making sure that you're including the entire team and that they all know about that. I think you develop those skills a lot.
I think as to how it prepares you for college, it really depends on how much you put into it and how you take it. We had a student a couple of years back who made our videos, and now he's like the vice president of media for a 3D printing firm in our local area. And he went to Cal State Long Beach and then transferred into the Chapman Film Program for TV writing. So you can go in the marketing direction of business, or you can use it to build public speaking skills, communication skills through your writing and your human interaction, and kind of build the confidence through exposure, where you can go talk to businesses, make connections, and utilize it that way. It's really whichever direction you want to take it, but you'll get back as much as you put in.
And then one more thing, I think one of the biggest things that you could learn from, especially the business aspect of the team, is the 21st century skills, which is, I guess, is a set of skills that really helps people this now day and age, I guess, all the new businesses and stuff like that, and working with as a team. But definitely check those out.
Yeah, I want to point out that each first team is actually like its own tiny company. So the business team actually gets a lot of practice in doing things that are done in industry, like making schedules, working with engineering and finance and everything else, learning how to keep to a budget, all those things which are, by the way, personal skills you should have for yourself, but they're also very helpful in college if you want to go into business, because those things are invaluable. You actually have a resume by the time you show up at school.
And what's your guys' team's general timeline for chairmans?
So on Team 3309, our chairman's submission begins to be drafted around Christmas season, and we aim to get it done a little bit into the build season. This is so that way we have plenty of time for members to draft and complete our essay, presentation, video, and handout material. This also allows members of both the robotics and the chairman's sub-team to participate more in the build season.
For us, our timeline basically begins in October and November when we start drafting the earliest drafts of our essays along with our supplemental, I guess we call them supplementals, I guess they're executive summaries. And then that continues following winter break, starting with drafting and with the essay again in January. And then as we move into later January, we really start ramping up script writing and presentation about then. And then once we get into February, most of February and the first week or so of March is just presentation practice all the time for the presenters. So that's our general timeline, I think.
I think when it comes to just chairman, it's not just the essay and presentation and award submissions. For chairman's itself, it's basically all year round for us when we're working on chairman stuff, documentation, all that type of stuff. But when it comes to the essay and presentation itself, we try to finish it towards normally like right before build season, so that during build season it's just refining and editing and like perfecting it.
And we have another question from the chat. As seniors graduate, how does each of your teams work to pass down information as effectively as possible?
Recently, our team adapted a deputy position type of role where for each of the leaders, you have a deputy or someone that's of a younger age. Lower classman, there you go. The lower classman that usually takes on from that leadership position. And we also just have groups of people, usually 1 or 2 people that are surrounded by people who are in the business team that are seniors or juniors that are really working, and they also just sit there with us and work with us so that they have experience and that they are more comfortable as they go through the next year.
Our team is one of our core values and something that we pride ourselves a lot on, talked a lot about in our presentation this year, is champions of legacy. So it's basically a practice where we focus on passing down kind of like the question asked information. And so we don't have something necessarily as official as what Jenna was talking about, but we kind of have, I guess, like an unspoken kind of passing down of information. Like the department heads or leaders or whatnot will kind of take someone under their arm and make sure that they are involved in a little bit into all aspects of whatever leadership role, so they have a good plan and picture of what they're going to be doing the following season.
I think on 3309, we try to get the leaders to identify their replacements in the future years. So they usually have their eye open for, like Jenna was saying, the underclassmen, try to find people interested in it and basically groom them up until the leadership positions.
Yeah, it's less kind of having a strict training program and more passing the torch in a sense. We kind of see someone who has the same drive, the same values that we do, and kind of wanting to do what we do. And that's on all facets of the team, whether it's, sticking around till 10, 11, 12 at night to work on the robot during build season, or whether it's staying up till those same hours working on the chairman's presentation or writing the essay. We kind of look around and see who's interested in what we're doing and who really enjoys doing it. And that's kind of how you get picked and how you pick someone, just on Team 3309.
I just want to
Sorry, you can go.
I think the biggest thing is, even though we do have a business sub team, we make sure the entire team is involved with everything we're doing chairman's wise. I think that's super important to make sure everyone's aware. And I guess one of the mottos for our team is transparency, making sure everyone knows what's going on, no matter what sub team it is or no matter what it is.
And we just have a few more questions. What do you think is most unique about your team's chairman's process / presentation?
I think it's probably that we're kind of story-based. We take our theme and then we figure out how to craft the narrative around it. Because if you go to the First Inspire's website, you can see all of the past chairman's essays, executive questions written by all of the teams that have won chairman's. And you can look at everything that they do. And something that we try and do every year is create a narrative around a theme in our outreach that we all agree with and think embodies the team values. Because if you can find something that's important to you and touches you, you can kind of take that and inspire others with it. And that's kind of what we look to do with our essay and with our presentation.
You forgot to mention the chairman's suicides.
Yeah, so if you've ever played sports, you know that suicides is something where you run to the first line, run back, run to the second line, run back, run to the third line, run back. And it kind of goes on like that. We do the same sort of thing with our chairman's presentation. We go until someone stumbles, and then we go all the way back to the beginning. Then we go until someone stumbles, and we go all the way back to the beginning. And it's as repetitious and tiring as it sounds, but it really drills it in. And it's something that I don't think any other team does.
I think what's unique about ours, and I think what we try to stick to every year, is we always stick to a theme. We go all out with the theme that we choose, and then we also try to do like a 3-tiered presentation. So generally speaking, that's like past, present, and future. This past year, that was creating and sustaining and expanding our legacy, and then grouping our outreach events and programs around that, and then ultimately creating our entire presentation around that. So I think that's the unique part about our chairman's process.
For our team, we have a vision, mission, and we have goals that we determine every new chapter, which is every 5 years for Team Spyder. And we really emphasize for each team to also have these vision, mission, and goals that they want to build upon and they want to grow for their team. And I think that's how we organize our essay and our presentation, to emphasize these parts and to organize it so they're clearly stated out for the judges and for when people are listening to the presentation.
And we just have one last question, unless something else pops up in the chat. What's your best piece of advice for presenters or your team?
I guess for presenters or just in general for the team, make sure you know everything about your team and make sure you have a good understanding about basically everything. I mean, even if you're on the Robots team, it's probably a good idea to understand Shermans or safety or imagery. So just make sure you know everything about your team and have a good understanding of what's going on.
I think what's also important is just to have fun, and that really to show your passion, because really what the judges are going to see is when you're talking about it, if they see the light in your eyes, they're really going to see that and then differentiate your team from other people.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things that really makes a difference is setting up a schedule. Like a lot of the teams have been talking about, planning ahead, keeping to it, adjusting to it as time goes by, making sure that all the activities are working in tandem, and make sure that everyone is aware of it. You meet regularly so you can go over it and adjust as things go along. Keeps the team together, keeps that spirit, and also make sure things are coordinated, so if there's any problems, you can react to them quickly. So having that kind of schedule laid out, and a lot of the mentors know how to do a Gantt chart. They know how to do a linear schedule, that kind of stuff. So they can usually help you in setting something up, because those are tools they use in business all the time, and that's a very good skill to have.
And an advice I have for when you're in the interview room is don't worry if you mess up a word, because none of the judges will really know if you got anything wrong or not. I feel that's one of the biggest hiccups of most presenters, especially what I've gone through.
My biggest tip for presenters is make sure that you have personal experience with things that you're talking about. So if you're talking about an outreach event or a program, try to have taken part in that actual event personally at some point in your past, because it seems they may not know whether it's authentic or not, but it always comes across as a little bit more authentic when you can give the judges kind of like a personal touch or tell a personal story about something you experience, as opposed to talking about it in the abstract.
Yeah, I can't really emphasize that personal experience enough. I think it's for chairmans or really anything on FRC. It's just that you get out what you put in. So like I think just deciding for yourself and as a team what your end goals are, what you're willing to put in, what steps you're going to take to get to that, and then setting a schedule, and then having a very clear progression throughout the season, I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely just take any opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah, my biggest tip for presenters would probably be have fun with it, for sure. I mean, you spent weeks on weeks practicing your presentation. You might as well enjoy the time that you're in there. Be able to think on the spot, because say you have personal experience, say you know everything, there are times that a judge will just pick you out, just you, and then ask you a question. And if you don't know it, you need to be able to think on your feet. You can't go through all of the questions you practice, all of the script, the chairman's essay, like say you memorized it all. You can't look back for like any like piece of minutia. You kind of just have to answer the judge and just involve your mission, involve your drive, and involve any outreach that's relevant, because they'll see like you not being robotic. Think about it. If there are all of these presentations that go through the entire day that all of us have memorized, that's a lot of 7-minute sequences of just us kind of like preaching, for a sense, because we're kind of talking to them, but not really involving them. You get to talk to the judges in the questions, so really make it stand out.
And it looks like we have our last question from the chat. How well do other departments work with the business department?
Could you restate the question, please?
Yeah. How well do other departments work with your business department? So like other parts of the team.
I think teams do have trouble, like when it comes to separating robot work with more of the chairmans. But I would say that they work pretty well together because we have a documentation lead, and then we have all parts working together, as in we have every member know, like Madeline said earlier, that everyone knows what's going on for each sub team. We have updates at the end of each meeting. We have trainings that we're coming up with, and then we also have outreach, that everyone does outreach, everyone goes to these events, everyone experiences it. And I think when you have them all coming together and when you're writing the essay, having all those perspectives is really important.
I think that all teams, all sub teams, even if they don't work well with business, at least respect it, because we get to make sure that they get to do all of the fun things. If you want to build a robot, if you don't have money, you can't build a robot. If you want to go to multiple regionals, if you don't have the funding, you can't go to regionals. I think the most fun part about being in robotics is going to outreach events and being able to talk to little kids who have maybe never seen something like that, and then getting to see, as Jenna said earlier, the light in their eyes when they see something fun and something that they want to do. I think it's the most rewarding part. And if that's what I get to do and that's what I get to involve my team in, there's no way that they can be mad. So I think business gets well along with everyone on the team because we get to have the most fun.
I'd just like to reiterate what Adrian said there at the beginning about having other departments, I guess, respect business. I can say, like, to be honest, it's like we've had troubles in the past kind of dealing with team cohesion, especially with other departments working with business. But I can say recently, I can say that this past season specifically, we kind of made it through, I don't want to say drama free, but we made it through being able to bring everyone together. And I honestly, I think a big contributor of that is the leaders of our team are friends most of the time outside of robotics. And that really does help bring departments together and kind of respect and work with one another.
And it looks like we're going to wrap up this workshop. So thank you, panelists, for today's workshop. Let's thank Friarbots 3309, Spyder 1622, and Warlords 2485. Tomorrow is the last day of the summer series where Team Spyder, Warlords, and Friarbots will host a workshop on recruitment and growing a team at 5 p.m. After that, we'll be creating a curriculum with Robot Dolphins from Outer Space at 5:45 p.m. We highly recommend you to tune in. Otherwise, please check out our Instagram at Robot Dolphins for more information about the summer series. This has been Morgan Malloy from Team 5199. Thank you, our panelists, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.